Hello, brilliant people. So today's question is, does being in nature help my intuition? And the answer is, well, I'll tell you what the answer is in a minute. So does nature help my intuition? Well, yes. And in fact, there's 5 ways that nature helps your intuition. So the first way is just like by being in nature. Like the Japanese have a beautiful term, it's called forest bathing. So just being in nature. I mean, there have been studies that have shown that it actually helps to reduce your cortisol levels. In other words, it helps you de-stress. And one of the ways it helps is because nature is full of fractal patterns. So the built environment, the human built environment that we live in tends to be full of very sort of what they call Euclidean shapes, like you're just straight lines and everything's very regular. Whereas in nature, you have all these rough, squiggly shapes. And a lot of those shapes have a definite fractal quality to them. So a fractal is a pattern that is repeated over and over again to build up a more complex pattern. So if you think of a tree, the branching pattern is just repeated everywhere. And those fractal patterns have a lot to do with your intuition. And I'm not going to get into it in this video, but the underlying structure of a hologram is in fact a fractal. And in physics, they pretty much tell us that the universe that we live in, it's a hologram, or it's built like a hologram. So our intuition is tapping into that holographic structure, and because nature is full of those shapes, those fractals, it actually helps align or inform our intuition. It helps our intuition open up. It's kind of like nature's talking our intuitive language. So that's the first way our intuition, being in nature helps our intuition. So the second way, I sort of referred to it before, is that it helps us de-stress. It helps us de-stress, I think, partly because just being in nature, we are taking a minute where we're disconnecting from the chaos of our lives. But it's also, again, those fractal patterns, because your brain, and in fact your heart, your whole system works with fractal patterns. So for example, the heartbeat has actually a fractal component to it that is so important that if you lose that, you're going to have a heart attack. In fact, it's so important that the rate of loss of the fractal component of your heartbeat, they can almost predict very scarily accurately when you are going to have a heart attack. And then, like with your brain, it actually stores, it's one of the reasons why they can't find any particular spot in your brain that actually holds all your memories. It's because memories are actually stored more as a pattern of firing in your brain rather than in one spot. Like, in other words, it's like a fractal. So because nature is talking not just the language of your intuition, which is fractals, but it's also talking the language of your body, it enables your body to settle and to de-stress. And the part of your brain called the limbic system, which tends to sort of get set off when we are very stressed, that starts to calm down. And that enables our sort of conscious, neocortex to have better access to those deeper parts of our brain, like the hippocampus and your pituitary, that seem to be more connected to our intuitive functions. So that enables us by being calmer, as we tend to be in nature, we have more conscious access to our intuition. So that's the second way that nature supports your intuition. The third way is that just being in nature encourages mindfulness. You know, when you are in a city and it's all noisy and there's, you know, and some of the noises are very screechy or unpleasant, or, you know, whether it's because people are yelling or, you know, there's a sound of somebody having a bit of a bingle or a barney. The thing is, we kind of unconsciously try to sort of shield ourselves from all of that a bit. You know, when we're very much in unpleasant chaos, whether it's the chaos of, you know, human interactions or just modern life, or our technology, we don't want to be open to that because it can be very overwhelming. It can add to our stress. But when we're in nature, we are much more inclined to want to be open and to be aware of what's going on around us. We want to be aware of the little birds hopping around and the dragonflies flitting by, and where, because of that, because of our openness to being aware of everything around us when we're in nature, it does encourage us to be more mindful, because in the end, that's what mindfulness is. It's being very aware of the present moment. And so that mindfulness really helps us attune to the space, and that attunement, that opening up, that really helps our intuition open up as well. So the fourth way that being in nature helps our intuition is that it actually helps our breathing. Just being in nature tends to slow and deepen our breathing. And as our breathing slows and deepens, our system, our brain, drops into those deeper states. You may have heard that your brain waves tend to operate in different sort of states or bandwidths. So you have beta, which is, you know, very fast, very active, but it tends to be when we're freaking out about stuff, worrying about the mortgage, whatever it is. Underneath that, there's alpha, which is that generally described as that state of relaxed alertness, but it can actually go all the way down into REM or dreaming sleep. But what that tells you is that you need to at least be in alpha in order to get to sleep. And that once we get into a deep alpha state, or hopefully even below that to a theta state, our intuition tends to be much stronger as we access some of these deeper states. There's an even deeper state than theta, delta. There's other states as well, but maybe I'll do another video at a different time on the different bandwidths. But yeah, like yogis, for example, who have meditated for decades, have been shown to be able to access even deeper states. So those deeper states help support our intuition. And one of the keys to actually being able to access those deeper states is slowing your breathing, particularly the out breath. You know, the more relaxed and gentle and slow your out breath is, it just helps your whole system just drop into those deeper states. And we just tend to do that naturally when we're out in nature. So that is a really good thing to know as well. But that's another great way that nature supports our intuition. And the fifth and final way that nature supports our intuition is just a sense of connectedness. In many ways, our intuition is working through, whether you think of it kind of poetically as the web of life, or like for our intuition to really be accurate, we need to be connecting on some level or another with what it is that we're getting intuitions about. And because in nature, as I said, it's so much easier to be open and to feel that sense of connection with the life around us, with the planet, that helps our capacity to be open and connected to the things that we want to have our intuition operating with. So there you have it. There's 5 ways that nature helps your intuition. So if you can, go and spend some time in nature whenever you can, because that will help your intuition. And when your intuition is stronger, it will make it easier for you to remember that you're brilliant.